Hi, Clark Nelson here with the video series How to Understand Genesis 5 Ages, number 3. Last time we met, I mentioned the primary age term. Primary ages begin the life of each named person in the lineage and extend until he fathers or begets his next named son. Primary ages for Adam and his son Seth directly come from the Holy Bible. Genesis 5:3 gives the primary 130-year age of Adam when he fathers Seth. Genesis 5:6 lists the primary 105-year age of Seth when he fathers Enos. Scriptures then assign each antediluvian patriarch another second age. Secondary ages last from fatherhood until death. Genesis 5:4 introduces the secondary age for Adam as 800 years. After Adam fathers his son Seth, Adam lives another 800 years. Seth continues 807 years in his secondary age after he fathers Enos from Genesis 5:7. Secondary ages follow primary ages to end the character's lifetime. Adam's primary 130-year age is the left green rectangle that marks the birth of Seth. Adam's secondary 800-year age follows in gray until he dies. Convention adds these two ages in linear order to make 930 years the total lifetime age for Adam. Adam's secondary 800-year age is divided into two periods of 400-year Bacton cycles. Adam 800-year generation cycle 1 terminology summarizes his secondary age. We use patriarch names and their corresponding 800-year generation cycle number to identify repeating patterns. Adam 800-year generation cycle 1 terminology summarizes his secondary age. Adam's secondary 800-year age is colorized, showing two consecutive 400-year Bacton cycles. Adam's first 400-year Bacton cycle is green. Adam's second 400-year Bacton cycle is red. Green is the active color that describes the first of two 400-year Bacton cycles in his secondary age. Red follows as the inactive color, which occurs during the last half of Adam's 800-year generation cycle 1. Below the bar graph, Adam 800-year generation cycle 1 is represented using a stick figure. Colorized green and red text are additional visual aids. Green text and graphics indicate active 400-year Bacton cycles. Active 400-year Bacton cycles generate respective green solar side primary ages during the first of two 400-year Bacton cycles. Adam 400-year Bacton cycle 1 is the green first half of his repeating 800-year secondary age. Red text and graphics show the inactive second 400-year Bacton cycle 2. Primary ages for Adam and the other patriarchs are designated solar side values. Lunar solar calendars involve reasoning to enable the ancient viewpoint of time. Separating Adam's primary 130-year age from his secondary 800-year age reveals original lunar solar components. Cyclic time meetings are different from ordinary linear time. The primary 130-year age of Adam functions as a masculine solar side time split, or 1/2 of an entire lunar solar 260-year token sacred cycle. Imagine Adam in the original generic Hebrew sense of the word. He was man or mankind, made from reddish clay and given the breath of life. He was created in the solar side image of Father God. Secondary age 400-year back-10 cycles, so long ago formulated, are an active cycle in our modern Gregorian solar calendar. Common Era CE reckoning is of course based upon 365 days plus a leap day fraction every year. In 1582, Pope Gregory XIII instituted his namesake calendar reform to correct the gradual slippage of Easter into summer. The solar Common Era time stream traditionally aligns with Christianity. Looking at the railroad analogy picture, the calendar solar side is marked with a green arrow pointing forward in time. Most people know the leap day fraction amounts to nearly a quarter day every solar year. Leap day accumulates time in a 4-year cycle, and a single day is added on February 29. There is another less well-known leap day provision involving the current Gregorian calendar. Refinements stipulate that leap day additions are omitted in those centennial years not evenly divisible by 400 years. The year 1600 included a normal leap day. Centurial years 1700, 1800, and 1900 omitted leap days on February 29 to further correct the equinox drift. In 2000, everyone added leap day in the usual manner. Few people realized the important 400-year calendar cycle had elapsed. Christianity was affected by Gregorian reforms. Trends during medieval era Protestantism were fueled by Gregorian calendar modifications. Several Orthodox denominations branched away from Roman Catholicism. Orthodox groups continue to use the previous Roman Julian solar calendar, which lags the Gregorian by about 13 days. The green arrowhead shown is a simple two-dimensional representation spanning some 7,000 years. At the most forward point, the moment of now occurs with regard to the modern Gregorian solar calendar. Gregorian reform dropped 10 days in 1582. October 4th, 1582 was followed the next day by October 15th, 1582. Later centennial leap day adjustments further aligned the vernal equinox with Easter celebration. Moving backward along the arrow shaft condenses solar calendar development into 3 segments. Our modern Gregorian solar calendar was predicated by the Roman version and the Egyptian before that. Julius Caesar instituted his Julian solar calendar beginning in 45 BCE. As the Holy Roman Empire spread, the previous Egyptian solar calendar was borrowed almost intact. July was named after Julius, and ordinary leap day additions ended February every 4 years. The antediluvian calendar of Genesis 5 incorporates lunar solar 400-year cycles that synonymously refer to Mayan 400-year back-10 cycles. Our modern Gregorian version follows a 400-year pattern that omits 3 of 4 leap days during centennial years. Time itself has not changed. Only the methods of calendar layers are different. Ancient Bible history was measured according to the lifetimes of patriarchs and magnificent events that took place. Noah's life was immortalized by the deluge and associated reckoning. Genesis 11 continues the dynastic story leading to Terah and Abraham. Years in the Old Testament were always counted using the lunar solar calendar perpetuated by Judaism. Royal kinglets and their families marked calendar legacy alongside sacred holidays observed. Oh, what's the time tunnel picture doing there? From the 60s sci-fi TV series to modern wormhole theories, time and calendars are open to creative thinking. Our green calendar straight line depicts an ideal case. A perfect world number line calendar is how the Gregorian system measures time. Still flowing left to right, a curvy arrow may represent true history better. Astronomy is just one factor influencing the calendar. Spirituality and governments add more dynamics. We can imagine time in 2 dimensions or even 3 dimensions given a spaghetti model type of line. Some will say time is the 4th dimension. Change the line into a flexible hose and the time tunnel comes to mind. Multiple calendar gaps also happen in real-world history. The Gregorian solar calendar reform of 1582 is one example. A transition occurred between the Julian and Gregorian. The solar time stream is apparent by defining absolute and relative chronology terms. Absolute chronology means the way people record their calendar. We use the modern Gregorian calendar in our daily lives. Absolute chronology applies since we are the people doing the recording. Anyone before us also using Gregorian reckoning was part of the same absolute scale. Relative chronology means the current interpretation based upon historical evidence whenever possible. In the late 18th century, Old Style OS notation signified the Julian calendar, and New Style NS stood for the Gregorian calendar on historical documents. Brighter convention bridged the absolute versus relative time gap. Anyone still using the older Julian calendar for absolute dating was by default implementing the Gregorian calendar as relative chronology. The reverse was true if someone used the later Gregorian calendar for absolute reckoning. The Julian calendar thus becomes the relative instrument. Religion contours the solar side time stream by making wavy lines. No physical properties exist to guide or simulate spirituality. Christians usually choose to worship on Sunday. Other faiths select Saturday instead. Motivation has many reasons for determining worship standards. Larger groups sharing similar thinking often influence governmental actions. Counties may decide to allow alcohol sales on Sunday. Nations might give preference to religious causes. Any picture that portrays a time stream and the calendar is incomplete. Ideas about time in the extreme range from wild fantasy to calendar science attempting to stitch together parts of history. All 3 time streams, lunar, lunar-solar, and solar, bear spiritual reflections of the civilization served. The solar calendar time stream shown begins linear record keeping with a penchant for continuity over some 7,000 years. Calendar use among 3 main time streams varies according to prevailing religious doctrine and ruling politics. All 3 arrows represent time moving forward at the same speed. They emanate separate time streams within a larger body, beginning with 360 days per year. 3 different time streams act like separate currents in a larger flowing river. Multiple aspects of world spirituality principally mark sacred commemoration. Scientists would not have gotten lost in time back in the 60s had they known this kind of stuff.